While I agree with Andrea on some points of this particular video, there are some areas where I'm going to move away. And I know Andrea has been pretty clear in the past that she's very well read, but not college educated. So therefore, she is not a lawyer. I am not either. We're not lawyers. We're especially not constitutional lawyers. Okay? But let's cover her interpretation of this particular topic because it's pretty interesting.
Donald Trump, loser of the 2020 election. Joe Biden is the winner of the 2020 election. Donald Trump is the loser. He did not win. Donald Trump lost. Joe Biden won because he's the winner. The 2020 election was not fraudulent. Donald Trump lost. Joe Biden won. So hopefully that's good. And YouTube doesn't hate me for that. But Donald Trump has been campaigning, and he's been saying some crazy ass shit in regards to January 6th. So check this out. Trump claims violence he inspired on Jan 6 was Pence's fault.
Right.
So a couple days ago,
he's got Trump is going through a meltdown right now. Because he's very close to being indicted in 2 different cases, potentially more. And as many bitchy men who don't know how to handle themselves or take accountability, he's pointing the fingers all over the place at other people right now. So that's where we are. He's blaming Pence for saying, well, you didn't help me steal the election. So therefore, it's your fault that my rabid base of zealots who believe in QAnon stormed the Capitol to try and perform an insurrection and hang you. It's your fault. That's like such an abuser type of thing to say. Oh, you might have gotten hurt. You did get hurt. Your fault. Not mine. That is absolutely an abuser position to take.
Michael Pence came out and said that history will hold Donald Trump accountable. That's stupid ass garbage. History is not holding anybody accountable. And also being held accountable doesn't even really mean anything. The phrase is just vapid garbage. It has no definition. People just say it. Just to say it, it doesn't mean anything. So not only does holding someone to account mean nothing, but the idea that history is going to do that somehow, let's be honest, that is not real. But Donald Trump apparently responded, and wow. So let's read. Donald Trump on Monday sharply rebuked Mike Pence's assertion that history will hold him accountable for January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, telling reporters that his former vice president should shoulder the blame for the violent riot that day by Trump supporters. What's notably absent from this Washington Post article here is the word insurrection. At least it's not in the opening paragraph. I'd like to control.
Yeah, seriously. The media needs to stop trying to whitewash this because we've seen the footage. We know what happened. We watched the impeachment trial. We know what they were about. And you're creating a far more dangerous situation for us if you keep trying to act like this didn't happen. And you don't want to say the word insurrection because it was absolutely treasonous what these people did.
Insurrection. Insurrection is not found anywhere in this article, so a little interesting. I don't know why the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos, would be caping for Donald Trump in the fashion of downplaying what happened on January 6, 2021. It was an insurrection. A riot is a word that you could call it a riot and an insurrection, but a riot can also not be an insurrection.
Correct.
The really problematic aspect of January.
And also an insurrection doesn't necessarily have to be a riot. It's the attempt of taking over government. An insurrection could also just be an assassination of certain leaders to gain control, right? So they could have just sent in their special Nazi military people to just kill certain people. It probably would have actually been, oh, I don't want to give them any fucking ideas. I don't want to give them any goddamn ideas. I don't want to give them any ideas.
6 was not really a riot, right? It's bad, but the insurrectionary aspect is the more dangerous part of it. So again, it being a riot, I mean, people do riots over the Super Bowl, right? People do riots over the World Cup, right? A riot is, they're not mutually exclusive. You can riot in an insurrectionary way, but what's more important on January 6, 2021 is that it was an insurrection. So again, I don't know why mainstream media is afraid of that word, but I'm not. So Donald Trump, Mike Pence engaged in an insurrection. Plain as, that simple. Quote, this is Donald Trump, had he sent the votes back to the legislatures, they wouldn't have had a problem with Jan 6. So in many ways, you can blame him for Jan 6. Now again, of course, that's not a thing. You can't just wave your magic wand and say, let the states vote again. It's not a thing, okay? Donald Trump might as well have said, and Mike Pence could have got up there and opened a bag of Oreos and just decided to eat them and would have said in the congressional record, that Oreos should be the next president. Like, that's not a thing. You can't do that. It's made up, right? Like, it's obviously, we know that. I have to say that, though, just so people understand what's happening. The former president said, referring to Pence's refusal to Oreo.
To answer your question that you're about to ask, Oreos, they come in a bag, but they're in like one of those plastic trays where they're all lined up. So it's not like they're loose in a bag, like what you're talking about, but it is technically like a plastic bag that surrounds them.
Those come in bags, by the way. I'm not actually sure. Referring to Pence's refusal to reject the Electoral College, blah, blah, blah. Had he sent them back to Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, the states, I believe, number one, you would have had a different outcome. Well, yeah, like if you did something differently, you would have had a different outcome. True, right? Like if I scratch this side of my face, it's a different outcome than if I scratch this side of my face. Yeah, it's yes, that is a correct assessment of the situation. I also believe you wouldn't have had Jan 6, as we call it.
As we call it?
I mean, okay, so let's hypothetically, Mike Pence sends it back to the states. Obviously.
What kind of reference is he trying to make by that? As we call it? Who's we? Who's we? Is that like, is he trying to compare it to, like maybe 9/11? Who's we? Is it all of us? Who's we? It's Insurrection Day, buddy.
That's not a thing. It doesn't happen, right? So, you think that the Trumpers would have, instead of Jan 6, it would have been like just Jan 20 or something, right? Like just at the next opportunity, right? The Trumpers would have fucking tried to do an insurrection when their fucking meme shit failed, right? Like,
well, and the QAnoners, the hardcore QAnoners kept thinking that they were going to have additional opportunities to get him in, and that's why they went to the grassy knoll. I think that's where they went to, because they believed JFK was coming back, right? They believed JFK was coming back and he was going to be Trump's VP. These people are so fucking psychotic.
They were threatening an insurrection on the Electoral College meeting. I think that's like late December, like I want to say December 20 or something, maybe. They were threatening to do an insurrection there, and then they're like, no, let's do it on January 6th instead, right? So like it's just kicking the can down the road. So yeah, we wouldn't have had a Jan 6, we would have a Jan 20, right? Or 19, whatever it would have been. That's what we would have had. December 14th, according to Tyler in the chat, is when the Electoral College meets. But again, I just think that this whole situation, again, Donald Trump
Yeah, exactly. They had already actually had they had the electoral college meet on December 14th, and I believe that is the technical cutoff for it might even be a little sooner than that. I think it's 30 days after the election. And the election that year was no, I think last year was November 8th. I can't remember what day it was, but it's always the first Tuesday in November. And so it might have been the 6th, right? It was probably the 6th. And then I think they have, it's either 30 days or it's until the Electoral College meets, which happened on December 14th, that you cannot present any additional legal challenges after that happens. And he continued to try and sue after that, despite the fact that our Constitution, that's our cutoff. That's the cutoff.
Is not actually eligible to run for office. He's actually banned from holding federal office. It's just that we live in a country where we have an attorney general who's a pussy-ass bitch. Merrick Garland is a beta male pussy-ass bitch, and he's afraid of reading the Constitution, right? So imagine, right, I am Merrick Garland, okay? And this piece of blank paper is the Constitution, right? Like, imagine, right, like I just like look at I can't look at this. No.
Okay, first of all, you don't need to do stuff like that to demonstrate when somebody is not behaving the way that you want them to behave. My understanding from politicos in my area who are actually attorneys and who actually do study constitutional law is that there were some limitations as to, first of all, Merrick Garland was not the DOJ when this happened. Donald Trump still had control of the DOJ. He still had control of government entirely until January 20th. So some of your conclusions about what has gone on here are not exactly fair. That's my point.
Like, that's Merrick Garland when it comes to the Constitution. Max is very concerned. He's afraid of the Constitution because he's a pussy-ass bitch. Why he's the Attorney General? Probably because Biden is a dumb fuck, right? Biden is just a really unintelligent person. If I were to guess Joe Biden's IQ, it's probably 40, maybe 50 on a good day.
They weren't in control at the time that this happened. And Nancy Pelosi did immediately start the process of impeachment. It was a post-presidential impeachment, which made it complicated, right? But that is what she had available to her. So they came after him right away because that started, I want to say it was like in February or March. It was really pretty quickly that they started putting out all of the evidence of what happened. The problem is that they were limited by the fact that the DOJ under Trump had already made moves to try and quiet this shit.
And that's maybe not counting the fact that he's not all there anymore when it comes to dementia, right? So again, Merrick Garland's not even a real, like, what even is he? Is he a law professor? No, he doesn't know anything about the law. Is he a lawyer? No, he doesn't know anything about the law. Is he like a judge? Well, he was trying to be, but good.
Hold up. I want to double check this because I feel like I want to double check this. Let me pause for a second. Okay, Andrea, I think it's really important that you look these things up before you start just like randomly saying things about people. Merrick Brian Garland is an American lawyer and jurist, serving since March 2021 as the 86th United States Attorney General. He previously served as a U.S. Circuit Judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit from 1997 through to 2021. I think it's important that if you're going to cover these types of stories that you get your facts straight. To say that he has no law experience is patently false. he was qualified for the role, and that's why he was considered for the Supreme Court as the nominee for Barack Obama. I mean, some of the stuff that you've been covering is good, and some of the stuff that you're covering, it just seems like you're injecting your own personal opinions rather than actual fact. He does have legal experience, and he has a very long career of it. Right.
Good thing he's not, because he doesn't know anything about the law. Why is he attorney general? You know, it's like, it would be like picking some random person off the sidewalk and saying that they get to be the head of Health and Human Services, right? Like, it's just, what? Like, it would be like if I signed up to lead the next expedition to Mars. Like, I don't know how to do that, right? Like, it's like if I said,
That's incredibly irresponsible to be dishonest to your audience that way. You should have at least taken a moment to at least look up his Wikipedia profile. That was really irresponsible, Andrea.
hey, I'm going on a flight. Hey, pilot, just take a break. Settle down for a bit. I got this. And then I head into the cockpit and fly the plane. I don't know how to fly a plane. Therefore, I should not be in that position. Somehow, Merrick Garland has fallen upwards, into the attorney generalship. I don't know how that's even possible. He doesn't know anything about the Constitution. I mean, let's be honest. I'm just saying, like, I know a lot of people, they roll their eyes at this shit, right, because they've been propagandized. But again, we have a Constitution. Whether or not you like it, I certainly don't like it, right, is irrelevant. The Constitution clearly states if you engage in an insurrection or give aid or comfort to those engaging in an insurrection, you're banned from holding federal office. So whether or not Merrick Garland's level of pussiness is not really that relevant at all to the text of the Constitution. Like, Merrick Garland having been diagnosed with low testosterone or whatever it is that's going on is not relevant to the text in the Constitution. I don't care what Merrick Garland's opinion is. I don't care what Congress's opinion is. The Constitution exists. It says if you engage in an insurrection, you're banned. Full stop. I don't give a fuck. Okay? But whatever, We don't live in a country of law and order. We live in a country of...
What needs to happen is for there to be a constitutional amendment that covers the transitional time between an election and the inauguration to make sure that presidents can't try and get this shit done. Because everybody reported to President Trump at the time of the insurrection, Andrea. That puts a lot of complications in the way. That's why they're trying to pursue these court cases at the state level, because the DOJ had their hands tied based on the fact that they were previously under Donald Trump's command while it happened. It seems really, your coverage today seems really unfair.
Fucking soap opera, drama, reality TV show, right? So again, on that note, I would like to say I am going to be running for president as a 26-year-old. I'll be 27 soon. I'll be 28 by the time of the election. You might be thinking, what? But the Constitution says you need to be 35. Exactly. Well, as we've clearly demonstrated, and I'm willing to go to court. If anyone wants to represent me, anybody, if I have lawyers in my audience, if anyone wants to represent me in a court case, I'm willing to go to court. If the Constitution doesn't apply to the orange man, why does it apply to me? When you think about it, I've done a lot of psychedelic drugs. I'm being honest with you. So mentally speaking, I'm way older than 35. I'm like at least 89 years old when it comes to my mental state. Why? Because I do mushrooms all the time. So with that being said, let's get back into this article. A pro-Trump mob, blah, blah, blah. Trump was responding to Pence's remarks on Saturday, where he said unequivocally that Trump had been wrong to demand him. I'm glad Mike Pence has finally come out to say that Donald Trump is wrong. He could have said that the day of. He could have said that, blah, blah, blah. But I'm glad, a couple years later, he said, bad. Well, that's, pretty strong words.
Well, the reality is he's facing legal liability at this point if he doesn't cooperate. And even though he was a victim, he was a target in this particular attack. If he doesn't cooperate, because he has been getting out there and trying to downplay it as well, and also not piss off the Trump voters, the MAGA crowd. He realizes that they almost killed him. They almost killed him. And now he's in a position where he needs to make it look like he's being dragged in, but start speaking the truth about what happened that day.
And then we got this white tie diner. What the fuck is a white tie? I don't even know what that means. But anyway.
A white tie affair is like this. Come on. White tie affair is like, it's like white jackets, white ties, black pants. And it's basically like a type of like, like ritzy sort of pompous type of thing.
I mean, it's just, again, why is this news? I don't know. I don't know why this is news. I don't know why we had, like, Donald Trump is literally banned from federal office. He is banned from running for any position in the United States.
No, he's not. No, he's not. Because he was able to put the roadblocks in place before he left, before he was finally out of office. And if you remember correctly, Andrea, he put up roadblocks the entire time during the transition. He refused to allow any of the government agencies to start coordinating with Biden's team during the transition, which made it very difficult for Biden to get his nominees in place and to get brought up to speed on a lot of stuff that was going on in the country. So I think your criticism is a bit unwarranted.
And he couldn't run to be in a municipality. He could not run to be on a school board. He couldn't run for any office in any state in the United States. And yet we're all...
The impeachment was unsuccessful. They were unable to prove their case. They were unable to, I mean, they proved their case, let's be real. But because we didn't have a majority in the Senate where we could actually remove him, this was even after he was out of office, right? So it's basically like put the seal on it that yes, you're impeached, you did something criminal, and if you were in office still, we would remove you right now. But there were so many questions around how do you get that done, because it's post his term. He wasn't in office anymore.
Pretending like he's allowed, why? I don't know, for clicks, for ad revenue, whatever. We live in a shitty ass fucking goddamn world, and we live in a country that is just falling apart at the seams. We don't have a constitution anymore. And again, this whole back and forth thing is just, I don't even know what to say. I really don't even know what to say. It's just lame. It's dumb. It means nothing.
Back and forth. What are you talking about? Only one side of the aisle was trying to take over government. There was only one side of the aisle trying to take over government. And it was Donald Trump and his fucking QAnon zealots.
Nothing, right? Oh, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. Meanwhile, all the other architects of the insurrection, Steve Bannon, right? Mo Brooks, remember that guy, right? All these kind of guys, they're still walking around, not in jail. And again, what does this all boil down to? Merrick Garland is a fucking pussy. Full stop. That's it. Nancy Pelosi.
I think you're being very dishonest about Merrick Garland, and I think you should really reconsider this stuff. It's kind of like when you were like, just the other day, advertising Marianne Williams as some sort of actual challenger to Joe Biden. Like, what are you thinking, Andrea? You keep telling us that you're well-read, and then you spout off like ridiculous fucking opinions like this?
Is a demented freak. Full stop. Cori Bush, Congresswoman from Missouri, I believe, brought forth a resolution to literally just read the 14th Amendment live in Congress. Nancy Pelosi personally stepped in to make sure that no one knows about the 14th Amendment. I believe that there were like 60 or 70 Democrats, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that said, hey, 14th Amendment Section 3, these guys are banned. They're gone. Like, they're gone. If they would have actually enforced the Constitution, at least 30 or 40 Republican senators would have been instantly gone. Now, again, they would have just been appointed by the governor, so, wouldn't reshape the balance of power too much. But hey, you would have had at least 150.
No, you don't appoint congressional reps. You appoint senators, yes, but you don't appoint congressional reps. You run a special election. I know you do activism, Andrea, but it's also clear that you really hate the Democratic Party, so are you maybe just not familiar with, like, how actual, like, do you maybe need some more information on how these appointments and stuff work? Do you maybe need to go back and do a little bit more reading on that? Because that's not how they handle House seats. They handle that for U.S. Senate seats, but I think there was probably quite a few less senators involved in this than there were House reps, right?
Closer to 200, but, there's a couple people that were on the line. Members of the House that would have been banned. They would have lost. They would have been out of Congress. They would have been in jail, and they would have been banned from holding office. Now, again, when someone is removed or leaves or resigns or dies in the House, you have to wait until there's a special election, right? So in an alternate world where Democrats actually gave a fuck about anybody, they would have invoked the 14th Amendment, Section 3. They would have banned the Republican Party. They would have just banned the Republican Party. That's really what they need to do. But, again, that's not really within the scope of the 14th Amendment. But literally, a plain-face reading of the 14th Amendment, Section 3, would have said that at least 150 Republicans in the House are banned, right? Which would mean Democrats go from like a majority, very slight majority, to a super duper fucking majority. They could have passed Medicare for all that shit. Obviously, you know why they didn't go with that route. But I'm willing to suggest, right, the 14th Amendment, Section 3, says if you engage in an insurrection or give aid or comfort to those engaging in an insurrection, I would define aid and comfort, right? I would say Donald Trump is feeling pretty comfortable not being in a jail cell, right? I would say that Nancy Pelosi should be banned from federal office because she gave aid and comfort.
No, she didn't, Andrea. She impeached the president, and she commissioned the January 6th investigation. Okay? She did everything within her own power as Speaker of the House to come after these folks. What limited power she had in her position, she did come after them. And it's unfair to say that she helped this along.
To someone that engaged in an insurrection. She protected Donald Trump from the power of the 14th Amendment. So, now
No,
again,
she did not.
that is open to interpretation. What's not open to interpretation is the fact that Donald Trump and a supermajority of the Republican Party should be banned from holding any office. That is, again, not open for interpretation. Anyone who's honestly reading the Constitution would agree with me. But
I would agree with you that none of those people should be leaders whatsoever. And unfortunately, when this occurred, Donald Trump had control of government. And that is a huge limitation for us. So you can be mad about this all day long, but there are limitations to what we can actually get accomplished based on what his position was at the time and the fact that the Constitution doesn't say anything about a president who tries to exert fascist dictatorship during the transition. We don't have that yet. It would be nice if we had it, but we don't have it.
I'm willing to say, on a personal note, my interpretation of 14th Amendment Section 3 would furthermore ban people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, who again gave aid and comfort to those engaging in an insurrection in the form of not holding them accountable for that insurrection.
That would be a very unfair assessment that you're giving right now, because they absolutely did try and hold them accountable. And you know this. You're not unaware of the historical events that have occurred. You're not unaware of the second impeachment trial. You're not unaware of the January 6th commission. That is a completely unfair assessment when all of this is dependent on the makeup of Congress. How many Republicans are sitting there in each branch of government?
I would say again, Donald Trump is pretty comfortable running for president right now, even though he engaged in an insurrection and is technically banned from office, right? So again, actions have consequences. That's my opinion. Nancy Pelosi should be in jail for the same reason Donald Trump is. But again, that's my opinion. But what's not my opinion, what is in the realm of fact, not my opinion, not anyone's interpretation, in the realm of fact says that if you engage in an insurrection, you're banned from office. Donald Trump legally, constitutionally, cannot run for president. And so again, if the Constitution doesn't...
He's got to get convicted for something, Andrea. He hasn't been convicted yet. There's plenty of lawsuits going on right now, and it's entirely possible that he will be ruled unqualified, or that he'll even end up in jail at some point. Probably not, but he will be at some point eliminated by the Republican Party because he has too many problems. And they're trying very hard to pump up DeSantis, which is actually pretty good for us because that guy is so lackluster that even Biden can beat him.
Apply to him. How come the 35-year age requirement applies to me? I disagree. So again, on that note, I'm announcing I'm going to run for president. If there are lawyers in my audience, anyone that wants to represent me in any fashion, to join my campaign, send me a message. And you might think I'm joking, but I'm partially joking. But in all seriousness, if there is a lawyer in my audience, I'm totally down to go into a court case or whatever, just to make this point, just, as a message, right? I'm
Cool, you can give us all a free pony like the other guy, right?
totally down to petition a judge or a court for this. I'm absolutely, someone help me out if you want to. But either way, this primary, if you could call it a primary, is heating up, question mark, but not really, because Mike Pence is he's got the power level of a wet sponge that's been sitting on the windowsill for fucking 3 days, and you forgot to wring out all the water, and now it's getting moldy and stinky. Ugh, you ever do that? You ever make that mistake?
Almost every single one of these people that are in government have a law degree. I think he knows exactly how serious it is that he's being interviewed, and he's just trying to do some political posturing to make it look like he's trying not to cooperate too much so that the MAGA crowd doesn't come after him again, but also to cooperate with authorities so that he doesn't get in trouble himself. That's probably what's happening here.
I've done it a couple times, haven't made the mistake ever since I figured out what that smell was coming from. But anyway, Donald Trump is obviously going to eviscerate these people. Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, they had the power to prevent this exact scenario where Trump runs again. They refused to do it. They dropped the ball. As far as I'm concerned, that's giving aid and comfort. So fuck them all straight to hell. But either way, there you go. Once again, Joe Biden won the 2020 election. Donald Trump lost. He lost the 2020 election. And he's a loser. Donald Trump is a loser. Joe Biden won. So
this is unfair criticism, Andrea. I mean, you should know better. They didn't have the authority to do what you're asking, what you're saying that they should have done. They really did not, and they pursued every avenue that they had to come after him and his supporters. A lot of people have been arrested. Several have been picked up from my own county that were pictured with the Orange County Sheriff here. They have picked up a lot of people, but they're also building their case because they have to get the witness testimony from the people they've picked up. They're trying to make their plea deals and stuff to actually build their case. It's not so easy as you think because he wouldn't send in the National Guard when this happened. They had to override him to get the National Guard to come in. Like, are you forgetting like what actually happened? That it's unfortunate that you have so many negative feelings towards Democratic leaders. Like, I can disagree with somebody's policy positions, but also recognize when they're doing everything within their power to hold somebody to account who has done something wrong. And it just seems like you just have a lot of hatred for this political party. And for both of them, really. So you're like anti-duopoly, which is fine. That's cool. Whatever. But I'm telling you straight up, you are your criticisms are not fair.